Merry readers, come cozy in. Let the story time begin with Robin and the Marys.
Hi Merry readers! I am so excited to continue on with chapter 3. This chapter is from Matthew's perspective on the same day, so it's still September 21st. I'm going to just jump right in because this is just supposed to be a continuation of chapter 2's video. So in chapter 3, we immediately pick up with Matthew right after him and Diana had that conversation at the bottom of the stairs. Diana goes off to return her books, and she doesn't know this, but Matthew actually goes outside and climbs up on top of the buildings. And so he's standing up on top and he watches her leave, and he notices that she's walking very fast along the cobbled streets. And so he actually follows her all the way back to her apartment. And once he gets there, he watches her from the rooftops again as she turns on all the lights. She opens the window to the kitchen. She makes herself some tea and some snacks, and he watches her read and write for a while and then finally go to bed. And he's so happy because she leaves the kitchen window open, so he's able to just slip right in. And usually he has to break in, and he's just so happy because he figures that no one will actually know that he was there. So he goes in and he starts looking around, and he starts to have little anecdotes about who Diana is, and it's very cute, but also I think as the reader you're a little uneasy because she's asleep in the other room and we don't really know who he is, and he's looking through her things, and he shares over and over again that he's not breaking in because he likes her. He's breaking in because he thinks she still has Ashmole 782. He overheard some witches talking about that she has Ashmole 782, and so he is determined to get in there and find out if she has it because he's been looking for this book. And so he's looking and looking, and he just notices and feels this immense power. And so he goes and peeks into her bedroom, and he sees her laying in bed, and her whole body is glowing with this white blue magic. And so he is just taken aback. He hasn't seen anything like that in years, and his inquisitive side wants to stay and observe her and figure out why it is that she's so powerful. And yet when he met her earlier, he hadn't felt any of this immense power off of her. But he again reminds himself that the only reason he's there is the book. It's clear it's not there, and he decides to leave. And so that's really where we are left off, is just him leaving her apartment, and we don't really know why he's looking for the book. We really don't know much at all. So that is pretty much it. In terms of my questions for this chapter, it's a very brief chapter. It's really all just in Matthew's head. We're observers now of what we had just been through in the chapter before from Diana's perspective, and now we're watching her do what she was doing from Matthew's perspective. The setting is really mostly on the rooftops and then in Diana's flat, her apartment, and the characters, it's just Matthew. We do see Diana, but there's no interaction, so the only character in this is really just Matthew. The historical and academic Easter egg, again, there isn't really much here. It's just that little nod at Diana's powers, but we don't really know anything about that. And then that Matthew is looking for Ashmole 782, but there's no real historical backing or anything like that in this chapter. The magic watch, again, it's Diana's powers coming to the surface and just wondering why she glows a white blue when she's sleeping and why that wasn't noticed by Matthew during the time when he was speaking to her in person. The mood and tone, I think that it's very sneaky and kind of like a heist vibe where he's trying to get in and out and he's looking around and he's kind of fighting with himself in his head about what his purpose is, why he's there, all of that. There aren't really any symbols or details here of notice beyond what we've already talked about, but it is just a very brief chapter. Romance watch, there's still this tension between them. And again, we don't know at this point whether they are going to be a romantic interest or if he is actually a bad guy. We really have no idea at this point. Food and drink, just beyond him noticing that she had tea and things like that when he's in her flat. That's really all we get in this chapter. And foreshadowing. I think there's a lot of foreshadowing in this chapter because there's the question about her magic, there's the question about what he is doing there, why is he obsessed with this book. There's just a lot going on there that I think will come to fruition as we go through the rest of the chapter. So my question for this chapter is, if you were Matthew and you were poking around in Diana's apartment, would you have stayed or would you have put more focus on why she is glowing blue? Or would you have done what Matthew did and leave because you're really just trying to focus on getting in and out? And then a second question is, how do we feel about this kind of trope in a book? I guess what I would like to say is I know that given who Matthew is later on in the book, and I'm trying not to spoil anything, some people may or may not be okay with what he does in this chapter, but I just want to know from purely a standpoint of someone breaking into a single woman's apartment in a book, how do we feel about this kind of trope? Because I have some strong feelings about it. I'll probably talk a little bit about it in the comments, but I just want to know. And again, I think that it's a choice that a lot of authors make to have these kind of invasive tropes for men in particular in books to go into women's space, and a lot of times it's explained away, and I'm not saying whether or not this happens in this story, but a lot of times it's explained later on that he was being protective or it was for a good reason and things like that. But what do we feel about in this day and age having a character break into a woman's apartment and just have him leave and have it seem, as far as we can tell, as if nothing really was wrong with it beyond him just looking for something? So I'd really love to hear your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow on the 22nd for chapters 4 and 5. You have plenty of time to catch up. If you're seeing these videos after the date that we have posted, please feel free to continue to comment below. I check my comments all the time, and I'm sure everyone else who is commenting would be happy to hear what you have to say too. So this is not a timed reread. If you are here live, that's wonderful. If you are reading through a little bit slower, that's okay too. This is really supposed to be fun and at your pace. And so with that, I hope to see you tomorrow and enjoy your reading. Bye!
So many readers, close your eyes. Let the stories lift and rise. Till next time, when lights will gleam, we're bright.